shipping elephants and exporting and importing elephants, but of course that's already against the law.
Stephen Guilbeault has proposed the dumbest law ever. This is saying a lot, but coming from Stephen Guilbeault, you can't put anything past this guy. This is the guy who said we don't need any more roads in Canada. This is the guy who climbed the CN Tower in 2001 and was arrested. This is the guy who climbed the Quebec Premier's house in 2002, was also arrested, and now he's sending bills through the government to get the dumbest laws passed. What we're talking about here today is Bill S-15. This bill here, you can see, is designed to protect elephants and great apes in captivity. Sounds like a good thing, right? We always want to protect those guys. The government of Canada is committed to protecting wildlife. This includes protecting wild species of special concern in captivity, such as elephants and great apes, building on Canada's whale and dolphin captivity laws. Stephen Guilbeault introduced this bill on November 21st, 2023. It would prohibit new ownership of elephants and great apes unless a permit or license had been issued for either best interest of the animal's welfare, for conservation, scientific research, and subject to potential conditions. What's dumb about this? If we look here, prohibited animals, this is the government's website. Prohibited animals. Do I need to do this, Stephen Guilbeault? All primates, apes. Oh, what's this? Elephants. It's already illegal in Canada to have great apes and elephants. Stephen Guilbeault wants to create more bureaucracy when we already have a ban on apes and elephants already. This is so stupid. Senator Don Plett, conservative Senator Don Plett, brought this up in the Senate. I'm guessing just to make a mockery of him, because Senator Don Plett has mandatory retirement coming here soon next month, and it seems he's just on a roll, just ripping them out. Like, he does not care. He's ripping the Liberals one after the other before he goes into retirement here.
Minister, many of us would not disagree with most of what you're saying the intent is. I think the disagreement sometimes is in that we don't agree on the path forward, not in the end goal. Chair already mentioned about the cruelty of shipping elephants and exporting and importing elephants, but of course that's already against the law.
Yeah.
So we're not dealing with something there. It's been against the law for many, many years, and nobody is doing that. The bill's sponsor, Senator Klein, and indeed Jane Goodall herself, have told us that the great apes in Canada live in excellent institutions.
If you don't know who Jane Goodall is, this is Jane Goodall. She's still alive, 90 years old. You can see Jane Goodall here on a Wikipedia page about her. She's considered the world's foremost expert on chimpanzees after 60 years studying the social and family interactions of wild chimpanzees. Goodall, She's a biologist. She's a world leader and expert. If she's saying the elephants and the great apes have good living conditions in Canada, in the few places that have conservation for those elephants in Canada, I think they get the thumbs up from her. I think there's no one more qualified to give that thumbs up.
In addition to that, all but one facility in Canada housing elephants do not breed their elephants, so they of course will either die or they will be moved to a different facility, but certainly they aren't breeding them. They aren't planning on breeding any. So in light of that, and the one institution that does, of course, has a lot of room, and they do breed for conservational and research capabilities. Can you explain to me what the real world problem is, what this legislation is solving? And I understand, and you said in 2021 you had made some commitments and you're following through with those. I'm just a little bit at odds here as to what the bill is actually doing that isn't being done already, other than creating possibly another level of bureaucracy in as far as obtaining permits is concerned.
Thank you for the question, Senator. So I wasn't privy to the comments that you referred to made by Senator Klein or Jane Goodall, but you and I were both at the event organized by Senator Klein a little bit earlier today, where she did say that she doesn't think that any animal should be in captivity. The purpose of the bill is to phase out the captivity of elephants and great apes in Canada. And without that bill, it would be possible for certain institutions to continue doing that under a certain number of conditions, but still possible for them to continue doing that. And the bill will make it so that over time, this will be phased out until the day that those animals are no longer in captivity, except, as I said in my remarks, under very specific circumstances.
Those very specific, thank you, Minister, and those very specific circumstances would be for conservation purposes, research purposes, among others. Right now, if the bill became law now and there would be no more breeding of elephants for any reason, of course, it would take 60-some years until the last elephant slowly, a very social being, as we all agree, a very social being would slowly die a death by himself or herself 60 years from now.
He's totally slamming them.
Again, in reference to the chair and African elephants, most African elephants live on reserves. They aren't out in the wild. If they leave the reserve, they probably get hunted. They get shot. There's poachers. The legs get cut off. Organs are harvested. So they're on reserves. So we talk about captivity, and you're right. We were at the Jane Goodall event, and she said no animal should be in captivity. Her favorite animal was a dog. She referred to rats. Rats are kept in captivity in order to do what she said they were supposed to do, and that is hunt landmines. Dogs, we see people that have St. Bernards and Great Danes in 900 square foot condos. The only facility really in Canada that's housing elephants or having elephants in human care, I guess I wouldn't call that captivity when they're on a 300-acre piece of land, roaming around free, having the ability to go into a large, wonderful large facility if they choose, be out there in the bush and in the pasture land, eating apples off the tree themselves. I wouldn't call that captivity. So what's the difference, Minister, between a reserve in Africa that may be a little larger and a reserve in Canada?
He totally is like the most polite dunk on Stephen Guilbeault ever. And I've seen that, what he's talking about there with the Great Danes. I've seen it so much when I used to live in Vancouver. You'd be like Yale Town. There's a lot of people who have those Great Danes. They're absolutely massive dogs. And then they go back to their 700 square foot condo and that thing has no room in there. Why is there no laws for that then? My stance on this, I'm not against what Stephen Guilbeault is necessarily saying here, but it's just stupid bureaucracy because they're already banned. You can't, the only places that can have elephants are the research facilities. So why even, this is so stupid. I don't think we should have zoos. I think zoos are stupid. It's trapping animals in little cages for our own entertainment, and it's not right. But there are some animals that just won't live in the wild. They can't because they're injured or whatever. They grew up, they're missing a leg, they were attacked. Then they would either be meat for another animal or they have them in a facility. And in those cases, you know, if they give them a good life as best as possible, it's better for them to live there than just become, you know, a lion snack outside the facility. In general, yeah, we shouldn't have a lot of these zoos with all these animals, but Canada, we're not Thailand. We don't have tigers chained up. We don't have the elephants chained up. What Guilbeault is pushing here is absolutely stupid bureaucracy.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'm quoting this from memory, so, and if it's not accurate, we will certainly provide the correct information to the committee. But from memory, if you look at Kruger National Park in South Africa, it's about 22,000 square kilometers versus 300 acres for the one you, I don't know if you hectares or acres, I'm not sure which metric. I said acres. So you can see the difference. And there are numerous, as the chair of the committee would know, numerous very large reserves in Africa and in many different countries where the status of these animals is highly protected. I've had the pleasure, not as environment minister, but in my past life, of visiting some of them. So I think in terms of scale, there's a very big difference. There's also obviously a climatic difference. elephants and many animals that are kept in captivity in Canada, although they can, in certain circumstances in our country, can roam a little bit in limited enclosure, will have to be brought inside for winter. They're not meant to resist the winter. So during the winter, the living conditions of these animals is much more constrained in terms of space than what it is in the winter, in the summertime, which is not something we would see in Africa, where these animals are originally from. So they are important differences. These are a number of the important differences between the living conditions here and living conditions in reserves and national parks in Africa.
Okay, so this just gets stupider and stupider. I've got some more stats here. What we see here, how many elephants are in Canada? Because that's what we should be talking about. It's right here, 23. Why are we even talking about this? It's already been stated by Jane Goodall, world expert, that they live in good conditions. We're talking about 23 elephants. This is what Stephen Guilbeault was talking about. He's right. In terms of the land size that they get to roam, 300 acres versus these huge swaths of land, he's right. But we're talking about 23 elephants. They've been born and they're used to our climates here. 300 acres is still a large area of land. So something to note here, if we're looking at this map, he mentions Kruger National Park, which is number 1 here. It's the Greater Limpopo Transformative Park. This is one of the largest ones. So, I mean, sure, there's a couple of them here. The one in Kenya, one at 8 here, this one in Namibia and Botswana. These are all the biggest ones. As a whole, probably all of these are going to be bigger than 300 acres, but still, we're cherry picking here a little bit, Guilbeault. Should note too, so I've been to number 9 here. I went on African safari when I was 19 years old. I've seen this up close and personal. I've seen lions full blown jumping on water buffalo and cheetahs attacking impalas, leopards in the trees, the whole business, elephants rolling around. These parks, they're just like big open lands, but they're locked off from the poachers. Poachers come in, they want to kill the elephants for the ivory. The ivory's worth tons. They do live in natural conditions out there, but they're constrained within these parks essentially. Just because they live in Africa doesn't necessarily mean that their climate is better for them. They're constantly swarmed by all sorts of insects and bugs and all sorts of stuff. It's just this is where they grew up and they adapted, and that's what they're used to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Canadian climate is worse for them. It's just this is where they came from. It's the same as us. If we were to move down to Mexico, we would adapt to it, and would we like it more or less? It's the same thing for an elephant or any other species. Some species can adapt, some can. Elephants can adapt. Most of the ones in Canada have been born here and raised here. So thus they are acclimatized to our habitat. And just so you know where we're talking about, this is the Masai Mara in Kenya. There's grasslands. You often see the cheetahs standing on termite hills. This is the kind of climate we're talking about here. It's hot, it's dry, it's Africa.
Thank you, and you'll tell me when I'm done, Chair, or am I done?
No, I'm sorry.
Can I, one more or no?
Okay, go ahead.
One more? And I don't want to get into a debate, Minister. That's not the idea. I'm here to ask, and you're here to answer, and you are doing that. But just on that note, of course, having thousands of elephants in a large area or having 19 elephants in a bit of a smaller area is kind of the same thing. These elephants actually, and we're going to hear from experts later, that say these elephants in Hamilton, in fact, are doing much better in the cold than they are in heat because of flies, mosquitoes, different types of insects. And of course, they have all been born in Canada and are climatized as a result of that, just like anybody else would be. But that's a comment, Minister, and doesn't require a response. But thank you, and if there is a second round, Chair, thank you.
On second.
This guy is wasting our money and is embarrassing. He is such an embarrassment at everything he does. Why can't he just do something right? He just does everything wrong. He's like, oh, we don't need roads. It's like, please, just go away, Guilbeault. Just step down and go away. Go into the jungle. Go be with the apes. Go do whatever you want, but don't be in your position here as Environment Minister in Canada. We don't want you here, Guilbeault. You know what the most ridiculous and ironic thing about this story is? Canada is not Thailand. We don't have the monkeys riding the little tricycles with the little umbrellas spinning and, you know, on with a chain around its neck and all. I've seen all this stuff.
The monkey show is basically what you'd expect to see a slave monkey doing. All actions are engaged with a strong tug on a rope that is around the monkey's neck. The monkeys ride a bicycle, play basketball, do push-ups and sit-ups, spin a coconut with their feet, and are commanded to do numerous poses for pictures. Here the monkey is holding a little umbrella and posing for pictures for the audience. I don't know what's more disgraceful, the Phuket Zoo inducing this slavery to poor little monkeys, or the parents bringing their children to see this.
I've seen this stuff in Thailand myself with the tigers chained up on a pedestal. You can go pet it and all that kind of stuff. Elephants all chained up. They do this sway whenever they're like really depressed. When I was in Thailand, I filmed a video of the worst zoo ever. It is arguably either the worst or the second worst zoo in the world. I knew it was there. My ex-wife wanted to go there because she's nuts. I was disgusted by even the thought of going there. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go there and film a video of this zoo and expose it as the worst zoo in the world. I put it on YouTube. It blew up. Within the walls of that zoo was an orangutan. It was the saddest orangutan you'd ever seen. They trained it to put its hand out and ask for money, for tips. That's how bad this was. 6 months after my video went out, my video blew up and it was getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. It got all this media attention over there. It caused a whole bunch of outrage. And then a group in Thailand broke into the zoo and freed that orangutan. And about a year and a half later, the zoo shut down. Now, I got no ego in this, but I created that video that did blow up. And then a bunch of people saw it and people started leaving reviews. And it just snowballed to the point where that zoo shut down. And Guilbeault is trying to pass a stupid law so you can't bring in any more elephants when nobody's bringing in more elephants. Outrageous. And on top of that, I actually made another video of another place called Fantasy, which is this, it's like a weird mix of Disneyland and an elephant zoo kind of thing. And that same thing, zoo, the elephants chained up and they're swaying and they're crying. And I filmed all of that and blew that up as well. I personally hate zoos. I think they're stupid. You know, unless it's for conservation, they're treated well. In Thailand, they're not treated well. They are treated very poorly, and people need to see that. That's where I wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about all this nonsense. This is a waste of money, in my opinion. Thanks for watching the end of the video here. We're going to keep fighting for freedom until we get it. I'll see you guys in the next one.